obviously at the time, Soul Food was the only project that Goodie Mob had out. But I wanted you to explain how you think over the years people gravitated to your music because of the soulfulness, because of the power of it, and like, speaking about not only the societal injustices, but how you guys framed them differently than had been done previously with a Public Enemy or Boogie Down Productions. Like, what was it about how or what you guys did, especially with Soul Food, that made it such a album that hit people so hard?
I think that was the first time that we as rap at that time, the first time that we intertwined God with gangster. You know, you could listen to us and tell that all of us were seasoned street guys, but at the same time too, it was the first time that we said gangsters do pray. Gangsters do have grandmamas, gangsters do know right from wrong, and gangsters do walk with God, And I think when you heard stuff like Free when the album started, 1 million niggas inside, cell therapy, where we just educated you on just, the Illuminati. We educated you on these chips that we now got on our debit cards. Now, it's so funny that, just a couple of years back, I was getting off the plane in London, and one of the brothers said, "Yo, Gipp, look at this," and it was a actual ad where you could go and get a chip in your finger, you know what I mean, to take care of your bills. Anything you wanted to do, the same thing you could do with your debit card, you can go and get a chip inserted into your finger. So it was almost like God gave us something that we didn't even know we had then. He gave us, we were fortune tellers. And, at the same time too, it was because of where we came from. Us being from Atlanta and being from the Bible Belt, we came up with civil rights, with the civil rights. We came up with Martin Luther King. We came up with Andrew Young's son, Maynard Jackson's son. Like, we got to actually see the power of black people. So, we knew we couldn't just make no album just talking about the streets. We had to put some God in it, and we had to put some truth in it. And that's what made Soul Food great at the time.
And I think too that that's why now, more than 20 years later, I think it still matters to people, and people still reference it. Like David Banner and I did the best albums on that album because it's phenomenal. But I also think too, like you're saying, another thing too that Soul Food I think did was brought in addition to the God talk, it was a other layer of spirituality, in my opinion, that I think hadn't been done to that level. So what made you guys think that the spirit, God, the streets, the politics, racism, American, colonialism, all that stuff would work in rap?
Because we still lived in the dirty South. You know what I mean? Like, we still was able to see what the North and the West probably couldn't see at the time, It was, Atlanta is still a divided city. I mean, I can tell you the truth, bro. I've never been to school with anybody but black people my whole entire life. So for me, I just think it was an interpretation of what the world was from our eyes that you only could see unless you lived in the South. For us to come up with Dirty South, I mean, Cool Breeze did that. What's so funny about Soul Food, man, we did Dirty South, Cell Therapy. Those were the last 2 songs of Soul Food. So, things like Thought Process was already down, you know what I mean? So for me, the reason why we felt like it would work because we were such fans of Public Enemy. And I've always been such a fan of Ice-T. He was able to blend streets and politics together at a time that people wasn't doing that. So for us, I felt like at that time we were the first to mix this street politics, God, and gangsterism in one album, and that's what really, made the Soul Food so great to me, because we said stuff like the Serenity Prayer when we knew at that time like that was something you could walk in anybody's grandmother's house and see it up on the wall in the kitchen. And I knew a lot of black people had seen this and really not paid attention to it, but when they heard us say it on the album, it was like, damn, that's what grandmama had on the wall. Like, that's been in my face my whole life. Now I see how much that prayer is truth. You know what I mean? So just doing things like that, it just made it a well-rounded album, you know.
And I think too, obviously, prior to Dungeon Family, there had been the MC Shy D's, and there had been other people out.
Yeah.
But you guys, I think, transform and revolutionize rap in so many different ways that we're still seeing the impact of today. So that being said, I think Atlanta also doesn't get a lot of credit for being so diverse sonically, thematically, and everything that it is. So even though Atlanta is, in my opinion, to a large degree, one of the main, if not the main driving force of music for the last 20-some years, why do you think it doesn't get recognized for that?
Because people didn't see us coming, first of all. Let's talk about it. Because at the end of the day, I don't think New York ever thought that anybody was going to be able to do what they did, or captivate, or take the game like we did. I mean, nobody saw Dr. Dre doing The Chronic. That was like one of the biggest records of all time, you know? Nobody saw that coming, and I just feel like New York, they working on it, but they've always had a problem with other people's message or other people's interpretation of what rap was, you know, and, you know, but if you think about it, CeeLo was one of the first that you heard singing like that. It was him and Lauryn Hill, period. You know what I mean? If it was Lauryn, it was CeeLo. So for me, I guess that's what made our shows great. I mean, because Goodie Mob would go up there and mix maggot brain and do cell therapy. We would mix Cameo with soul food. You know, like we were just musically more in tune with funk and R&B, and you know that's why we had to go so hard, you know, on the stage, because at that time New York wasn't really recognizing nobody else's talent. You know what I mean? And you know they didn't start recognizing us because it's funny. One night I remember us performing in New York one night, and it was Goodie Mob, Big, and Fat Joe. And I remember that night when Fat Joe performed. Fat Joe was new to New York. A Puerto Rican rapping was new to New York at that time. And we got to see how he wasn't all the way accepted. We got to see how the Wu-Tang wasn't all the way accepted. Right. And so, you know, what we started to do is say, you know what, we're gonna ignore what they talking about, and we just gonna go all the way, we just gonna go for it. That's when you start seeing Gipp doing the outfits. You know what I mean? Because I was like, okay, if you gonna say you don't understand us, then I'm gonna wear some shit so wild that you gonna remember us.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.